are questions in advance that we usually start with one of those that's come in advance and then open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. And today we have a question that says, how can we embody Hanuman's devotion in our lives? So it's a perfect place to start. You know, I was speaking on the Ghat about Hanumanji as the embodiment of all of these different virtues. Strength and courage and humility and wisdom and devotion. We think of him mostly as this embodiment of devotion, or what you could call the Shakti of Bhakti, that power, the power of real love. But one of the things to me that is so seamlessly interwoven with his devotion is his humility. And they're not separate virtues, of course. They go together. When you're really devoted, you realize ki aap sab kuch hai. You know, that it's all you. It's all you. And there's such beautiful examples of this throughout the Ramayana. And so I'll just share a couple of my favorite examples of that. But it's amazing because, you know, Hanumanji was actually conceived of the same material, the same prasad that Bhagwan Ram, Lakshman, Bharata, and Shatrughan, his brothers, were conceived of. Right? We had the yagna that King Dashrath was doing to have his offspring. From the yagna came this prasad, which was divided amongst the wives, from whom we got Ram, Lakshman, Bharata, and Shatrughan. But the story goes that because, of course, the yagna was outside, some of that prasad got carried away by a bird. And then carried by the wind, by Vayu, and ultimately ended up being consumed by Anjani. And so when we talk about, you know, immaculate conception, so this is how her immaculate conception happened. When we say Hanumanji is the son of the god of wind, it's not that they actually had, you know, relations and he was born. It's that the wind carried this prasad to Anjani and she swallowed it, and hence Hanumanji was created. But I mention this because in all of the stories where Hanumanji is asked, who are you? How did you do what you do? It would be really easy to say, don't you know who I am? Like, I'm made from the same stuff. I'm not actually different. I'm cut from the same cloth. But he doesn't. You know, in families so frequently, and even in communities, one of the major issues of competition and envy and whatnot is this idea of like, we are brothers, or we're sisters, or we're from the same school, or we grew up playing baseball together. And then one has gotten very high and advanced and far, and the others have this sense of like, well, what about me? I mean, I'm genetically the same material you are. I played baseball with you in 5th grade. What makes you so great and me so small? And we see this so frequently, where you see people who are really succeeding and really moving forward in beautiful ways. There's so much of that resentment from others who feel like, well, I'm kind of the same. What's so great about them compared to me? And with Hanumanji, it's so beautiful because, I mean, obviously we have beautiful examples also with Sri Ram's brothers. But there's no even acknowledgement of I'm made from the same stuff. It's just this absolute, I mean, humble isn't even the right word for it. Just fully surrendered, empty of all that keeps him separate from God. Experience in him. And one of the parts that's so beautiful that I love on the humility level is when he meets Sri Ram in the flesh for the first time. He's disguised, right? He's disguised as this Brahmin. Sugriva has got him all disguised up to go and see who the travelers are. It was Ram and Lakshman. So he's dressed up as this Brahmin. Now, in this caste system, Brahmins are seen as the highest. Now, Ram and Lakshman are warriors. But the moment that Hanumanji sees him, all of his disguise is forgotten and he prostrates on the floor at his feet, which ordinarily would be unthinkable for a Brahmin to do in front of a Kshatriya. And I love that moment because we all wear so many disguises in our lives. There's so many roles we play. So much that kind of props the ego up that, we know maybe isn't so true, but hey, why not, right? Who knows it's not true? It's a respectful disguise. And it's such a beautiful reminder that when we come face to face with God, if we can let go of the disguise, whether it's when we walk into our meditation, when we walk into the mandir, when we come to Arti, when we go to the banks of Ganga, whatever feels to us like it brings us in the presence of God. We always leave our shoes outside. But if we could leave our dramas outside, if we could leave our disguises outside, our stories, our roles, our costumes, and meet God as that truth of who we are, like Hanumanji, forget the whole Brahmin costume, I'm going to prostrate on the floor at your feet. It's such a beautiful, beautiful moment. And Bhagwan Ram, of course, gives him what's seen as the standard self-introduction. I am this, I am son of King Dasharath. And then he says to Hanuman, Apka Parichit, who are you? Clearly you're not a Brahmin priest, because you've just prostrated at my feet. So who are you? And of course, Hanumanji again falls at his feet in both devotion, but also a really beautiful despair. I mean, how many of us have felt unseen by God? Right? We pray, we love, and there's that longing of see me, know me. And on all of our behalfs, Hanumanji has that beautiful moment of, what do you mean you don't know who I am? Like, I've seen you in my meditation, in my heart. What do you mean you don't know who I am? And so he falls in devotion and love, but also in this despair of I've loved you. And of course Bhagwan Ram knows who he is. The whole thing is an unfolding. And so he picks Hanumanji up and gives him that beautiful, beautiful hug that we see, portrayed in so many beautiful paintings and images and memes and whatnot. But then something very interesting happens. He says to Hanumanji, I love you more than even my own brother Lakshman. Now, on the superficial level, it's like, oh, thank God he got his validation, like, all is good. But when Hanumanji gets asked later, what did you make of that? What a thing to say. I love you more than my own brother. Hanumanji said, well, I understood. All he was doing was introducing his brother to me. Because, see, he had given his own introduction, but he hadn't yet introduced Lakshman, who was standing right next to him. And usually what we say when we love someone is we say things like, I love you more than life itself, right? I love you more than my own being. So when Bhagwan Ram said, I love you more than my brother Lakshman, and this is Hanumanji speaking, he's saying, I understood that when he said that, what he really was telling me is, this is my brother Lakshman, and he is my own being. He is my life itself. And so he says, so I didn't take this as, something to make me feel arrogant or prideful. I took it actually as a very delicately clothed introduction of his own brother Lakshman, who was his own life. And of course, when Lakshman was asked, well, how did you feel about that interaction there? He said, well, I understood it perfectly. I mean, here was the one who was going to rescue Sita, when I was the one who had let down my own brother. It was because of me she was kidnapped. And now Hanumanji is the one who's going to rescue her. So of course. He said, but of course I didn't take it as, lower than. And it's such a beautiful moment of like one word, one sentence from Bhagwan Ram. But how it gets taken in the purest sense, right? Most of us would be like, oh, didn't you hear him? Hey, yeah, me. I'm the one. You heard that, right? He loves me the most. But no. He just took it, Hanumanji did, as this introduction of his own brother. So as you read the story, and there's so many So many just beautiful, beautiful moments of how to be in relationship with God. How to be in relationship. And what I love is he negotiates. And I think I love that because I'm a negotiator. And he's not just the okay, whatever. So for example, when he wants to take them up to see Sugriva. So Bhagwan Ram says, well, wait, I mean, you've just said I'm God, I'm the one you pray to. Why should I go to see Sugriva? Let him come to me. Now, Hanumanji knows I've got to get him up there. What does he do? He so wisely, he says, well, you know, my Lord, when people go to God, they always go up. Like God always rises us higher. And so it just wouldn't be appropriate for Sugriva to come to meet you by going down. He says people should only meet God when they go up. But he then, of course, after having successfully negotiated to get Bhagwan Ram to go up the mountain, in his devotion he says, but let me carry you. Let me carry you. And he gives a beautiful, beautiful message. Because he says, you climb on my back and you hold me. And the teaching is so deep and so beautiful because when we hold on to something, we could let go. We could get distracted, we could slip, we could fall. This is why when you're crossing the street, kids and parents, the parents always hold the kid's hand rather than relying on the kid to hold their hand. Right? The parents always grab the kid's wrist, the arm. They're not going to rely on the child to grab the mother's finger. Because they know the kid could let go. He could get enticed by a car and let go of my hand and run into traffic. So when we hold on to something, we could let go. But when God holds on to us, well, then we'll never be let go of. And so it's this beautiful beloved and lover moment where Hanumanji is saying to him, you hold on to me. I'm not going to pick you up and carry you like this. You climb on and you hold me. And of course that's the greatest gift. If you can get God to hold you, you've got everything. So how to embody this, I think, is just keep telling the stories, reading the stories, sharing the stories, loving the stories. And as you share them, as you tell them, it catalyzes and inspires in us that sense of, oh yeah, I want that. I want that. I want that. And, lastly, the story that I alluded to on the Ghat, the one about the pearl necklace. And the reason that this is one of my favorite stories and one that I almost always share when I'm talking about Hanumanji is, as Pujya Swamiji said on the Ghat, we've started to value valuables a little too much. And it's this just perfect quintessential message about what is valuable. Sita Ma says to him, this is a very expensive necklace, a very precious necklace. And so, of course, to him, if it's precious, it means Rama's there. Obviously, right? Otherwise, it's useless. And so he literally goes pearl by pearl, biting them in half, looking for Ram and then spitting out the ones where he isn't there. And he explains so sweetly and matter-of-factly to Sita when she can't believe that he's, now biting and spitting out this precious pearl necklace she gave him. He says, but if it's precious, then Ram is here. And in all these pearls where I don't see Ram, it means it's not the precious one. So why shouldn't I bite it in half and spit it out? Like, who cares? And it's just such a perfect teaching about priorities and values and where we go awry in what we think is valuable. I mean, how much do we in our lives forsake time of prayer, time of meditation, time of loving, giving, serving, in whatever way love is overflowing and oozing out of us into the world through our gifts. How much do we forsake that in this drive to have more? And whether it's more money or more possessions or more power or more fame or whatever it is we are running after, that we keep telling ourselves is precious, whereas we're actually leaving behind, in terms of our time and our energy, that which really is precious, and that which really is the source of everything that we want. So it's just such a beautiful message of like, what are those pearl necklaces in your life? What are the things that you or someone in the world or the culture or an advertisement or someone's told you, get that. You should have this. Make this much money. Make sure you climb the career ladder, the social ladder. Make sure you've got this, got that. What do you mean you're still on this level? What do you mean you haven't earned this much, achieved that much? These pearl necklaces that the world keeps giving us, first they make us lose our sleep and lose our health and lose our time to achieve, and then they give them to us as though that's the precious thing. But in trying to achieve it, we've actually let go of that which really is precious, which is the opportunity to just live in love, in God consciousness as that being through whom miracles flow. The one who it's just like, yeah, I take God's name and it all happens. Don't look at me, I don't know how, it just happens. And so I love his life for so many reasons, but when so many of us think about a spiritual path, so many of us tend to think about just, sitting in a cave somewhere and being separate from the world and not engaged and just meditating and praying and maybe sunning yourself on the banks of a lake or a river or whatever it may be, napping in the afternoons and the sort of very just peaceful, away, spiritual life. Whereas actually what Hanumanji has shown us is that the miracles are those that unfold when we live every minute and every moment just dedicated to God. Fly across the ocean? Okay, here we go. Bring back my wife on an island with no bridge, no airplane? Okay, here we go. Oh, Lakshman's gonna die. We need this plant and it's gotta be here before sunset. Okay. Oh, sun is setting? Well, all right, just stick it under your underarm. We can take care of that. Just this constant flow of yes, it's possible, yes, it's possible, yes, it's possible. I'll share a personal story with you. When I first met Pujya Swamiji, after I had been here for a few months and he had sent me back to America, and then I had done the studies he wanted me to do, and I was coming back. He was actually in Pittsburgh at that time, where he had founded the first Hindu Jain temple in the world. And so I flew to see him in Pittsburgh after finishing my final exams of that semester. And he was showing me the temple. I can still picture like where we were standing. And he was showing me the beautiful temple. And he said to me, you will really achieve so much. You will touch millions of people. Now, I was 25, and I was a great student, straight A student. I knew how to take tests well and, do that. But I was under no illusion. I was not someone who was cut out for great things on that level. Yeah, I was a good academic. I was smart. I could learn things. I was going to be a scientist and, a psychologist. And I said, no, Swamiji. And he said, no, I'm telling you. And I felt like, when your mom says to you things like, oh, you're the prettiest girl in class, or, you're the most handsome boy in the class. Now, you're not. But you know that your mom is just saying that because she wants you to feel good. She's just trying to make you feel confident and get over your insecurities. And so, and of course, in her mind, maybe you are the most beautiful in the class. But of course, by all objective standards, you're not. But you love mom for her love and her care. And so when he told me that, I felt like that. I felt like he was being like my mother and just saying these really, really sweet things to me to, make me feel good and confident. But of course I knew, on no objective level was this actually true. But I appreciated his kindness. And the next day, when I arrived where he was sitting, I bowed to him, and on the table in front of him was a book. And he hands me the book, and it was the Ramayana. And it was a beautiful, beautiful version of the Ramayana. A few hundred pages, full English. It wasn't like chopai by chopai. It was just the story. Not quite a kid's version, but, something appropriate for a 25-year-old American who didn't actually know anything about India or Hinduism or anything. And I stayed up that entire night reading it. And I went to him the next morning, tears just pouring down my face. And I said, I get it. I get it. I can do beautiful things in the world. Not because somehow there's something different about me or unique about me or special about me. but because if I can be as devoted to God as Hanumanji is, well, I mean, look at what happened through this being in a monkey's body. If this being in a monkey's body could be the hero and do feats that are impossible, maybe I, in this body, really can do something. If I can just be as devoted as Hanumanji is. And so from that day, that became my personal prayer of, let me be a devoted vessel through which miracles happen. That it's not about me or my achievements, but it's about just that closed eyes, loving devotion that makes miracles happen. So that's my personal Hanumanji's, my Isht Devta story. Yeah. He's not the only one I love, of course, but he was the first one I loved. So yeah, I think it's all just about seeing what way that devotion flows for each of us. There's no right way to love. All that matters is you love. There's as many different ways to love as there are people and relationships in the world. All that matters is we really love. And that we love with that surrender and that wisdom. And I love that aspect that I was speaking about on the Ghat, that answer that he gave to the question of, who are you? Not in that first moment, and these three different aspects. Well, I've got a body consciousness. In that consciousness, I am your servant. I am the one who loves you. I am the one who serves you. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful place to be. With these human bodies, in his case with his monkey body, he served and he was the hero. He brought back Sita. It was due to him that the whole war was won. So that body was critically important. And then of course we go deeper and we say, well, we're not body but we're soul. And when I realize I'm soul, then I'm a reflection of you. The Sanskrit is anch, which gets translated as part, but it's not really part, because part implies that I've, here's a part of the paper, but now see the paper is less and the part is kind of, it's not that type of part. It's more a reflection, an embodiment of you. Because each Jeev Atma, each individual soul, is ultimately a reflection of the Supreme Soul. And then of course when I go deeper, when I really remember who I am you. Because everything's you. Because there's no place I end and God begins. And it's so beautiful because we have this opportunity in our lives to be on all three levels. And they're all beautiful levels of consciousness and awareness. When we interact with each other, the level of soul to soul is such a beautiful level to interact on. When we say namaste, it's that divinity in me. bows to the divinity in you. So the soul in me, consciousness in me, bowing to that in you. And when we serve, we've got this great body with hands and arms and legs and a brain and creativity and initiative and tenacity and technology, and so much we've got. And then of course we go really deep. And we realize that we're one with God. Where the lover and the beloved are one. And the joy of kind of flowing through these three states at different times is such a beautiful opportunity, and he explains them so succinctly and so wisely. So a lot to, not a lot to think about, let's say a lot to feel about. Because thinking doesn't really get us too far. But a lot to feel about, a lot to meditate on, a lot to allow. And I hope you all have beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Hanuman Jayantis. For those of you joining us from all over the world, lucky you, your day is just beginning. You've got all of Hanuman Jayanti left. So have a beautiful morning and day to all of you, and a beautiful evening to all of us here. And I look so forward to being together tomorrow. So much love to you all.